Again, my name is Miriam Naiman, a senior advisor at Nefesh. I work together with Sippi Oppenheimer, Aliyah Graben, and some other most amazing individuals in the Post-Aliyah Answers and Advocacy Department. So tonight's event is one of the first that we have very, very often. I call it a kiddush, a time for you to come and ask your questions, whatever those questions may be, from a post-Aliyah perspective. But we always have a highlighted subject. Sometimes it's about Arnona, driver's license, passports, but we are very, very honored to have with us this evening Captain Nurit Jessica Barkai Lieberman, who is head at the English desk of the Home Front Command Information Formation. And very timely, she is going to give us a presentation on the Pikud HaOref, on the Home Front Command. For those of you who are newer Olim, perhaps you have learned vocabulary now that you never knew before and never thought that you would learn. It's like during Corona, there were times that I learned words in Hebrew that I never thought I would ever have to know. And so without further ado, I would like to introduce Captain Nurit. Any questions can be put in the Q&A. Please feel free to do so. Sippi, Aliza, and myself will be monitoring that as well. There were a lot of questions that came in about guns. I don't believe that that is what the captain is going to speak about. However, that is something that we will be able to address after she finishes her presentation, as well as those other questions that came in about passports, about all of the other different questions and concerns that you had. So without further ado, Captain Nurit, I invite you to begin.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Pleasure to meet you all. If you just made Aliyah, then welcome to Israel. If you didn't and you're here, then welcome again. I'm here joined by Major Hadar. Hadar is the liaison between the Home Front Command and the various sectors in Israel, sectors as in divisions, and she's going to join me tonight. We will start off, I think the best way to start is with a little presentation that we prepared for you to better explain, first of all, what the Home Front Command is responsible for, and of course, how you protect yourself better, which is one of our main goals. This is the main goal of the Home Front Command, is to provide information to the public to help them better prepare and protect themselves during emergencies. Okay, so let's start. Can everybody see the presentation? Okay, can everybody see it? Everybody's okay? Just give me a thumbs up so I'll know that you see it. Awesome, thank you so much. So first of all, as you know, the Home Front Command issues guidelines on a daily basis. And it also issues a defensive policy that we update every 48 hours that determines basically what is the threat in each and every area and sector in Israel. I'm going to run a little video just for you to explain. I think it explains amazingly, and then we'll keep on from there. It's a short one.
In order to balance between the routine of life and saving lives, the Home Front Command conducts situation assessments on a regular basis and accordingly updates the defensive policy that defines which activities can be carried out in each area of the country. Devising the defensive policy takes many factors into account: number of threats and assessment of threats in a certain area, ability of the population to deal with the threats, means of protection available to the residents, and analysis of intelligence assessments. After considering these factors, the guidelines are updated in three main sectors: workplaces, educational activities, and gatherings. The defensive policy is valid for 48 hours from the time of publication, and it is reviewed every 24 hours to make sure that the guidelines are consistent with current situation analysis. Remember, strong front, strong army, win together.
Okay, so as you can see, this is how basically this is how the Home Front Command bases its situation analysis and his guidelines. You can see that we issue every day. You can find us on Facebook or WhatsApp groups. I know that There's a lot of people that distribute our information out to the public, but you can see here that each and every guideline is basically divided by sections in Israel, areas in Israel. And if you look at the map that's right in front of you, I know it's in Hebrew, excuse me, but we don't have such a map in English. But as you see, the Gaza envelope is the section that you see here in orange, is basically the sector or the section in Israel that is under the most severe threat. And if you go a little bit further, then you see the yellow. The yellow is a little less threatened than the Gaza envelope. And then the rest of the country, other than the north, as you can see another little yellow area over there up in north, the entire the rest of Israel is basically in green, which means that there are almost no restrictions as in workplaces, educational activities, and gatherings. Gatherings are up until 1,000 if you look at the green, but other than that, there's no restrictions. You can go back to work, you can go back to school, and there's no restrictions. So what do we do and how do we protect ourselves? Okay, so basically, when we are under a rocket and missile attack, there's a couple of behavior guidelines that we do tell you to look out for and observe or actually follow. So it's divided into two, whether you're indoors or outdoors. If you are indoors, so you have the mamad, the protective room, or the mamak, which is the communal protected room. That's the room on the floor. If you don't have a mamad in your house, then there's sometimes in some buildings, you have a room like a mamad at home, like the protected room that you have in the house. You have the same thing on the floor itself, and it is being used by a couple of the residents of that same floor. That's the mamak, as we call it. If not, you have stairwell or an inner room in the house. That's indoors. Now, when we talk about, and of course, we have the shelter, the communal shelter, the shelter underneath the building. If we're talking about outdoors, we are dividing it into two, whether you're in an urban area or you're in open area where you have no buildings around you. And of course, the last part is if you're in a vehicle, whether you're in your own vehicle or on a bus. Let's keep going. Okay, so if we're talking about indoors, then the protected room or the protected space for everyone is divided into four. You have the protected room, as we called it, the mamad or the mamak, mamad or mamak, okay? The residential protected room or the communal protected room or the floor protected room. You have the communal or public shelter, which is communal is the one inside your building. The public shelter is the one that is not owned, it is owned, but is managed by the municipality of each and every city. You have an inner stairwell inside your building, of course, and an inner room in the house. And we'll talk briefly about it in a few minutes. So a protected room, as we said, is the residential protected room. We call it the mamad. Not everybody has it. It's mostly the new apartments or newer, let's say in the last, I think, 10 years, everybody has a mamad. And then if your building was renovated, mostly adding a mamad in Tama, if you know what Tama is. Some of the buildings went through renovation and construction, and they built a protected room as an addition. The second one that we have, okay, sorry. Okay, I want to show you a little presentation of how important it is to have a protector or stay in a protected space. This is a video that was filmed in Alfei Menashe 2 weeks ago by somebody from the Home Front Command Search and Rescue who went into this house. It happened to be his mother's house. He went to the house. I want you to see what happens if you stay in a protected space versus the house itself. So please run it.
A few hours ago, a missile landed directly on this house. We are currently in the protected room that my 82-year-old mother and 2 nephews went into and closed the door. The protected room itself remained stable and intact. In contrast, the entire house was destroyed. The impact damaged every possible infrastructure. Complete collapse of all walls. The house itself was completely destroyed, but thank God, entering the protected room and closing the door saved my mother, my family, and the nephews who were here. A few hours.
So basically, you can see how important it is to stay inside the protected room, and it actually protects us. Now, not everybody has a mamad, and we all know that. Not everybody has a protected room. So if you don't have a protected room, what we say is always find the most protected space available to you. And I will explain that as well. But if we don't have a residential protected room, a mamad, then we use a communal or public shelter. A communal shelter, as I said, it's the shelter that is underneath the building, okay, on the bottom floor usually, or a public shelter, which is a miklat, which is the one that the municipality runs. It's their responsibility to maintain it intact, to clean it, to open it, and make sure there's nothing inside, and for the citizens to use. The third option that we have, and of course it's listed by priority. Our first priority is always the mamad. Second, the priority is always the miklat, the shelter. And then the third priority is an inner stairwell. When we talk about an inner stairwell, there's a couple of things that we have to watch out for and remember always. But the first thing you need to know is you stay on the staircase and not on the stairwell itself, and avoid windows as much as possible, and doors and openings as well. One of the reasons why we use the inner staircase as a protected space is because the stairwell itself has concrete walls. The entire building was built around. And again, there's usually no windows, no openings. And what we should look out for is if we stay in a staircase or the stairwell, we have to make sure that we have at least one floor above us. When I say at least one floor, which brings me to the next slide, is if we have a 3-story building, there's only one floor above me. So always stay on the middle floor. If we have more than 3 floors, you can stay on any floor that you want, except for the bottom floor, the entrance hall, or the upper 2 floors. Okay. So the third one is an inner room. Okay, that's our last option. Our last option, or let's say the last priority in our option, is an inner room in the house. Also, make sure no windows, or as few windows as possible, and as few openings as possible. If you use the inner room, you have to make sure that you don't stay right in front of the door. Do not face the door, and stay below the window line. This is very important because, as you know, glass may shatter. And if it shatters and you stay above it or below it and you don't duck enough, the glass can hit you. Okay, and this is why we say an inner room can be a protected room, but you do have to use it wisely. Minimum walls, windows, doors, and openings, the most inner room in the house. And of course, as I said, do not stay in front of the door and stay underneath the window. Places that cannot be used as a protected space. You have to really, really be careful when you choose a protected space. One of them, as I said, is the building's entrance hall. Do not stay in the building entrance hall for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, there has usually a lot of windows, a lot of doors, a lot of glass. If something hits next to it, the glass can shatter and you can get hurt. The other one is, of course, the bathroom, the toilets, and the kitchens. You have to stay away from ceramics, from mirrors, anything that might shatter and actually hit you, okay, and hurt you. Okay. When you hear an alarm and you go into the protected room, you need to stay in a protected space for 10 minutes, no less. The reason why we stay 10 minutes is because there are rockets, barrage, and interception now that might hit you, and it takes time for the interception pieces, the interception of the missiles to fall to the ground. And that's why we say stay 10 minutes and no less. If you do encounter another alarm during the 10 minutes that you are in the protected room, always remember that the 10 minutes starts from the beginning, meaning that if we are in the protected room, we had an alarm, we stayed there for 7 minutes, and then 7 minutes into our stay in the protected room, we had another alarm. You need to start the 10 minutes from the beginning, okay? Carry on. Okay, while we're driving, as we said, this is indoors, and then we go to outdoors. While we're driving, we need to stop the car at the side of the road, get out of the car, it's very important, and enter a nearby building or shelter. if you have. Again, we're talking about an urban area. If it's not an urban area and it's an open space, what we do is we stop the car at the side of the road. If we are in a car, we get away from the car as much as possible. We lie on the ground and we use our hands to protect our head. And again, we stay like this for 10 minutes. It's the same 10 minutes as before. And the reason why, I'll get back to this in a minute. The reason why we stay for 10 minutes, again, as explained, why we protect our head and why we lie down, I'll show you in a minute. There's another option of actually being outside, of course, not in our car, but in public transportation. Again, there's two scenarios. One is a city bus and one is an intercity bus. A city bus must stop and then the passengers open the doors. Passengers must exit and enter a nearby building if they have one available in their area. If they do not have a building nearby, again, they should lie down on the ground and protect their head with their hands. On an intercity bus, since we are in the middle of the road and we're not in a city, what we do is that, again, the driver must stop at the side of the road. The passengers bend below the window line and protect their head with their hands. The reason why we protect our head, of course, is not to get hit by the glass if it might shatter. Next. Okay. Why should I get away from my vehicle? Why should I not stay in the vehicle? Why should I step away from it as far away as possible? So, of course, there's three things that we should take into account. One of them, if one of the pieces or the missile hits our tank gas, basically we're in a fire trap. Okay, the car becomes a fire trap, and then we don't want to be in it and we don't want to be around it. The other thing is glass. If we are inside the car and something hits the glass, the windows might shatter and then harm us and hurt us again. And exposure, of course, as we said, to shrapnel. That's why we lie down on the ground and protect our head with the hand. It's very important. Again, and I'll repeat it a lot, stay 10 minutes. The 10 minutes are very, very important. Why do we lie down on the ground? As explained, the shrapnel goes up. Lying down on the ground reduces the chance of being hit by the fragments. Again, you can see here in the chart, it explains exactly what are the chances or percentages of being hurt. If we lie down, there's 10% of you getting hurt. If you crouch, then there's 85%. If you stand up, there's 100% chance that if a missile hits next to you, you will get hurt. Okay. What is the most protected space and how do we choose it? The most protected space is basically, we take two things into account. First, what is the best protection that we have in our area? Whether we're indoors, outdoors, and if we're outdoors, what do we have in the area? If we're indoors, what do we have? And the second thing we need to take into account is what is the time available for us to reach shelter. The time available for us to reach shelter varies depending on where we live or where we are currently in the country. It's divided into, there's certain places as close as we get to the threat, which are 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute, or 1 minute and a half. Okay, so let's say I live in Ra'anana. Okay, Ra'anana is a minute and a half. I have a minute and a half to get to shelter, which means that I'm going to look around me and I'm going to figure out what is the best protection that I have in my area that I can reach within 90 seconds. Right? Keep going. As we said again, if you look at the chart, 5 to 5:10, this is the amount of time we stay in the protected space. You can keep going. Okay, so how do I know when there's an attack? How do I know there's anything? So we're talking about three means of alert. The first mean of alert is our personal mean of alert is the Home Front Command app. I'm sure some of you already got, if you're holding an iPhone in your hand, you probably got a notification about, let's say, an hour ago saying that the app is being updated currently because of current issues that the application had in recent days. We are updating currently the app. It's not available yet for upload, but it will be soon. Now, what you should think about or should remember always, and right now, is if you do not update the app, and we will send you notifications that it is available for upload and update now. If you do not update the app, you will not receive alerts. This is only for iPhone users, not for Android. Android did not have a problem. So we didn't update it, only for iPhone users. I see that the question is Android, and I have received the alert. I know there's a problem with separating between those notifications saying to update, but as you can read, it only refers to iPhone users, okay? Exactly. So it's only for iPhone users. So one of the mean of alert that we have is the personal, it's the Home Front Command app. The Home Front Command app, you need to go into the app, as you can see here. If you look, then you have your current location. This is a GPS location. The iPhone knows where you are, or the Android, doesn't matter. The app knows where you are. And then as soon as the alert comes in your area, you will receive an alert. The other thing you can do, or you should do, is go in and define areas of interest. If you define areas of interest, then you will receive alerts on all the areas you defined. I'll give you an example. If I'm currently in Ramleh, and I want to know if there's an alert in where my mom lives, or my son lives, or my nephews live, then I go into areas of interest in the app and I define Tel Aviv, Ramat Gan, Ra'anana, Kadima, and all the other areas that I want in the country. And just remember that you will receive alerts on these areas. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have an alert in your area. Then always look what it says. You get a notification saying there's a rocket and missile attack in Ramat Gan West. So this is the alert is on Ramat Gan West and nowhere else. Okay. The name of the application, of course, is the Home Front Command app. Okay. A public siren. This is our public mean of alert. Is the Home Front Command sirens system. It is deployed throughout the country. And what's very important to remember, because I know there's a lot of questions always about it, the sirens, if you don't hear it in your house, is intended for those staying outdoors, not for those staying indoors. Do we hear it when we're indoors? Yes, sometimes loud and sometimes not. But it is intended for those staying outdoors and not for those staying indoors. The duration of the siren is the same amount of time you have to reach shelter, which means if we're talking about the Gaza envelope, then you have 30 seconds to go into, or 15 seconds to go into shelter, then the alarm will sound for 15 seconds. If we're talking again about Ra'anana, then the alarm will sound for 1.5 minutes. Okay, again, the duration of the alarm is the duration of time that you have to enter a protected space. If you did not hear a siren or did not receive an alert on the app or the third mean that we'll talk about in a second, then means there's no threat in your area. There are some cities in Israel where the areas, the city is divided into several alert areas because it's a large city. Let's say Tel Aviv, let's say Haifa, Ashdod. There's a lot of areas within this city. Not each area in the city will receive alert at the same time. You have to remember that if I receive an alert and I'm in Herzliya, it doesn't mean the missile is going to land in Herzliya. That means that the missile is in the direction of Herzliya. It doesn't mean that it's going to land there, which means that if I'm in Ra'anana and I can hear the alarm going in Herzliya and I'm scared because I didn't hear an alarm, it doesn't mean that I need to be scared because the threat is not in my area. Okay? Always remember that. Which brings us to the third mean of alert, which is the Home Front Command portal. The Home Front Command portal is your private computer. Okay? It's the home mean of alert. What you have to do, and you can open it right now, I'm going to open the app and show you. In order to make the Home Front Command portal into a mean of alert, you have to go into the portal, leave your computer on, go into alerts. As you can see here, right now it says all the country, but you have to put in the city where you live. You put in the city, you press, put it, okay, let's just put it, okay. Let's say Kfar Saba, add zone. And then the last thing you need to do, and don't forget, go back to the upper right part and press the speaker on. If you do not press the speaker on, you will not receive alerts. Okay? So if we're talking about right now about iPhone users, and as I said, iPhone users currently will not receive alerts through the app until they perform the updates. Right now, what iPhone users need to do is use the home portal, the Home Front Command portal, the home computer, as one of the alert means, and then use your sirens from outside, again, as their alert mean. I know that most of you probably saw 3.5 weeks ago, IDF spokesperson talking about being equipping your protected room in your house with some equipment. It wasn't meant to frighten anybody. I know that some people got scared and ran to the grocery stores and bought water and bought food and looked for radios and batteries and everything. The reason why we say it, and it's always in the portal, and you can read a lot of information in the portal, is this is the equipment that we encourage you and guide you to prepare for emergencies, any emergency, by the way. Okay, not necessarily just a rocket missile attack, but any emergency. Water, of course, a lot of water. Put it in your protected room or in your house. Food that does not require refrigeration, that will not tarnish. Radio that runs on batteries, that doesn't require any electricity, because sometimes electricity might not work, so we need another mean. Lighting devices that run on batteries. Again, if there's any problem with electricity, we want to have lighting devices, a flashlight. Portable chargers if our cell phone runs out. First aid kits and medicine. I encourage those of you who have children to bring in games, coloring pages, anything that might keep the kids occupied. You have 10 minutes to keep them occupied and keep them as calm as possible. I always believe that with kids, tell them the truth, but in their own level. So if they're 6, tell them there's an emergency situation and we got it under control, but they need to be attentive. They need to take a toy. They need to take a teddy bear. We always say that if you have a couple of kids in the house, assign roles. Let them have a sense of purpose. Tell them, take care of the little one. Help them to go into the protected room. If you have a dog, take the dog inside. This is your role. Your role is to take the dog inside the protected room. It keeps them occupied, it keeps them calm, and it gives them a sense of purpose and self-worth. Okay? Okay. As you can see in the portal as well, I just put it so you'll know. There's a couple of emergency phone numbers that you probably, all of you know. 100 is Israel's police, 101 is Magen David Adom, 102 is the fire department, and then you have 104, which is the Home Front Command's call center. You can always call them in English, in Hebrew, in Russian, in Arabic, and ask them questions if you want. There's other means of communication with the Home Front Commander. You can always call us in for any information that you want, and you'll see in a minute as well. Watch this. It just tells you a little bit about how to contact us and communication means, and then I'll be available for QA. There's a lot of questions already. Okay, so I see we have probably internet problem or something here. Basically, just it's a little video clip that you can watch later. It gives you all the information. You can contact us, as I said, through 104 call center. You can contact the Home Front Command through WhatsApp, on Facebook, on Twitter, on all the social platforms, mail, and we are available for you guys 24/7. So there's people here for you to answer whatever you have, and I'm available if you have any questions. I saw you have a lot of questions, so Miriam, if you can just maybe run the questions for me, and I'll be answer, or Hadal could answer.
Absolutely. This was unbelievable. I have to honestly say, living here through many needs of needing the Pikuda Oref, I didn't think I'd learn anything new, and I did.
Good.
And I certainly hope our audience did as well. So yes, there were several questions, some written here, some that came beforehand, and we look forward to your answers. So the first was, what if the only mamad or safe area is 2 minutes away? And I'm going to add on that, for the elderly, if somebody has a special needs, what would be the best thing for them to do? Should it be, as you showed, to stay in a room, find a room in a house? What would be the best way?
So as you saw and as I explained, you have to think about these things, of course, ahead of time. We need to know what is the most protected space for us available within the time that we have. So 2 minutes obviously is too long. So if a mamad is in the house, if you don't have a mamad in your house, you have to look for the most protected space that you have available within the time you have to reach shelter. So if it's the staircase or an inner room or a communal, the shelter in the building, this is what you should use, okay? Your second question about if you have somebody who's with disability or elderly, again, we don't take the elderly or somebody with a disability outside because they're not going to make it in time to stay protected. So we choose the most protected space that we have inside our house. Remember, always avoid bathrooms, kitchens, and toilets. Okay, this is one of the things you avoid in the house, but anywhere else you should look for an inner room with as few windows and doors and openings as possible. Or if you don't have a room like that, then you can stay in the hall in the house, okay, and use it as an inner room.
Stay down.
And of course, stay down. That is added, of course.
Excellent. And what if a public shelter doesn't have a metal door? What if it has no closure?
Then it's not a public shelter.
Who would they bring that to? To their city, to
The
their
municipality.
municipality?
Yes, yes. If there's a problem with a public shelter, and we do have a lot of people calling or writing us about it, then there's a problem of the public shelter being full of objects that doesn't belong, or does belong there, or it's dirty, or it's not even open. I hope that all the shelters in Israel are open. We have in each and every city in Israel, each and every town, there's a home front command representation, and they are the ones who are responsible to go around about the town and make sure that everything's in order and the shelters are open.
No,
But it is
the only city that must open the
Mhm.
shelters is some cities in the south and north.
okay.
Only,
That is correcting me that right now, since the entire Israel is green, right? We're almost with no restrictions. Then right now, the shelters must be open only in areas with the yellow and the orange cities up north and in the south.
You mentioned that each city has a representative.
Yes.
If somebody were to call, let's say somebody did have somebody disabled, elderly, and they wanted somebody to come and say, is this room a good room? Does that mean that they could call their municipality
Yes.
and find out who the representative is and somehow?
Okay, let's separate between the two things. There's a representation from Home Front Command that's in charge of guidance and actually making sure that everything's being held. But if you have a problem in the house or one of the citizen residents in the city, you have 106 and 107 are the municipalities hotlines in each and every city. Okay, you call them and you have the cities have lists of all the elderly people in their district, and they're the one who are responsible to take care of them. Okay, to make sure that people take care of each other and the elderly and the disabled, people with disabilities. I'm sorry. The other things that is very, very important is all of us, if you have a neighbor who's elderly, you have a neighbor with a disability, go over there, knock on the door, be a good Samaritan. Listen, Israel, it's been a terrible month for everybody. And I think it's the worst month Israel's ever went through since 48, the country was established. And since that day, I've been here since Saturday, October 7th, and I can say that one of the things I'm always amazes me is Israel, the citizens, the people. This is our responsibility and our, I should say not just responsibility, but our obligation to take care of each other, because nobody else will take care of us. So if any of you have elderlies or somebody with a disability that he knows of, go ask them, knock on the door, see if they need something, okay? The other thing, of course, they can do is call the hotline, the municipality hotline, 106 or 107, and I'm sure they're going to help them.
Excellent, thank you. Somebody said that there's been times that they saw an interception from the Iron Dome, but there was no siren. Do they need to be concerned about shrapnel if there was no siren?
Absolutely not. As I said, if there was no alarm in your area, you're not in threat. Okay, you can hear, I can tell you that I live in Ra'anana. I'm sure that everybody already guessed it because I give Ra'anana as an example all the time. But I live in Ra'anana and I hear the bombs everywhere, not bombs, but I mean like booms. I hear them everywhere and all the time. But there's no alarm, not a lot of alarms in Ra'anana. Okay, and I hear them from Herzliya, I hear them from Tel Aviv, I even hear them from in the south.
Israel
Okay.
is divided in more than
Yeah.
1,700 different places of the land
There's
around every area.
don't if you that what should guide you all is if you did not hear a siren in your area or you did not receive an alert, do not be scared. It's not in your area. And this is a principle that should guide you. Even if you see interceptions, even if you look up in the sky and you see, you know, don't be alarmed. Nothing will happen to you as long as you're not in the area that received an alert for.
Somebody asked, is there any kind of interactive map on the app that if you were in downtown any city and all of a sudden there was a siren, that you would already know where's the closest shelter?
Oh,
Running in the store.
again, no, because it's each and every city. The Home Front Command doesn't control each and every city in terms of where are the shelters and you know, like locating them.
Yes, most of the cities have signs or inside the city that shows you the direction for the closest shelter.
Mhm.
Most of the
In
cities.
public places.
I can give you just a suggestion. If you do want to know where the shelters are, call the municipality, call 106, ask them, I am going to Carmel Market. Where is the closest shelter to Carmel Market? I'm going now to the zoo in Jerusalem. Where is the nearest shelter in the zoo? Do we have a shelter in the zoo? Okay. This is one of our responsibilities, to stay protected and find the most protected space no matter where we are. So it's one thing to be prepared for an emergency when we're home, but it's another thing when we're saying we're trying to maintain a routine of life during a routine of war, because it's not really daily routine as we know it. We are in the midst of a war. So we do have to find the most protected space no matter where we're going. Should I go to visit my family? Absolutely. Should my son or daughter go to friends? Absolutely, yes. If you live in an area not up north or not next to Gaza Strip, go to friends, go to families, go out to, take your kids out for activities. They need it, okay? It's gonna be long. You all need it. But before you go, think about the most protected space you have in your area, where you're going, and then go and have a good time. It's important, very important.
I'm going to take a 30-second commercial break here until I get to the next question.
Sure.
That what Captain Nurit said is so vital for everyone to keep to routine. And it was hard at first to keep to routine because our normal was literally shot out of the water, without using any puns here. But we forgot what normal was. It took us a long time to remember the word. If you're having a hard time regaining your normal, whether you are an adult or you have a child at home, please remember, if you didn't already know, that Nefesh B'Nefesh is partnering with hundreds of mental health professionals who have volunteered their time to help Olim and to help children regain that normal, to feel safe to go to friends, to feel safe to go to school. Okay, somebody was told that she shouldn't use an elevator during the time of a siren to get to a shelter. Okay, she wanted to know if that was true.
That is absolutely true. Because if something happens and her building will get hit, then she's inside an elevator. If a building does get hit by shrapnel or by a rocket, then there's no electricity. She gets stuck in the elevator. Always use the stairs in that case. And it's even safer because, again, the staircase and the stairwell gives you protection from it's walls around you, concrete walls around you, basically. So it's always the safest option to go down the stairs.
So how far from a car should somebody go? If they're in their car
How
and they
far?
how far?
As far as you can without getting hurt. I'm sure some of you read 2 weeks ago about an older gentleman who was told to get away from his car beyond the separation fence. He went beyond the separation, but he forgot to look that there's a ditch.
Oh
and
no.
he got hurt.
Oh, shame.
So again, please be careful. Okay, do not run to the protected space. That's what I'm saying, and I'll keep on saying. Choose the most protected space you have available. within the time you have to reach shelter. But please do not run. If you have a minute and a half and it takes you 40 seconds to get to shelter, then take a minute and 10 seconds. Get there as fast as you can. Do not run, okay? You have a minute and a half to get to shelter, or a minute or 30 seconds. Try to find the best route, clear it of obstacles. Find, if you have, if it's in your room, in your house, I'm sorry, you have a protected room, please make sure the route to the protected room is clear of obstacles, clear it of anything that shouldn't be there. If you have this, I don't want to go into it because I can speak for hours on guidelines and how to protect yourself, but please go into the portal. You have a lot of Home Front Command portal. It's oref.org. Go in it, read how to protect yourself, read how to prepare your protected room. There's a few steps that you need to take. One of them, for example, is if you have a single winged window, you just slide it and you just close, the steel window and bolt it. If you have a double winged window, a glass window, you need to take it down and put it outside your protected room. Completely take it down until the end of the wall, until the end of the emergency situation. Okay, as I said, there's a lot of things I can tell you, but please, please, please go into the Home Front Command portal, read all you need to know, all the information is there. If you have any questions in addition, after you read it, please call us, 104, or write to us in any of the social medias that Picud Oref has.
Okay, thank you. Someone's asking for you to restate that, but they can just write to you about, she asked, can you please restate the window information again?
Should I repeat it, you mean?
Yes.
Yes, there's two options to a protected rooms window. One option is a single, like a regular window that you just close it, okay? Then there's not a problem. You open it, you close the steel window completely, and then you close the regular window on the steel window itself. The other option that you have is a double winged glassed window. It means that it slides to the middle. There's two parts, it slides in the middle. If this is the case, then the steel window will not close. You won't be able to close it. And this is why we say that you need to push both parts of the wings to the middle, push them upwards, take them off, and put them outside of the protected room. Do not put them back until the end of the wall. And then you can safely close the steel window. And that's it.
Thank you. Two
I
last
hope it answers the
questions.
question.
I think it's it. Two last questions. One is, why is being in a car worse than being totally exposed outside? Meaning, why wouldn't you stay in your car where you're inside of something as opposed to going outside, laying down and covering your head?
Okay, so I'm not going to go back to the slide where I showed it, but I will explain it. If you stay inside the car and a rocket or a piece of rocket hits the car, now there's a couple of options there's a couple of things that might happen. First of all, it can hit your gas tank. If it hits your gas tank, then you're sitting in a fire truck. Okay, basically it's going to explode and that's it. The other thing is if it hits the windows, then the glass might shatter and hurt you. Again, you're exposed to pieces of glass. And the last part, again, is it's a car. If a rocket hits or a piece hits you inside the car is made of metal. The metal can hit you. The metal can, it's like a car accident. Think about a car accident. If something hits your car, it hits your body, then, something can happen. Again, if I go back to the slide that I showed you about lying on the ground, if you lie on the ground, there's only 10% chance of you getting hurt. If you bend, then there's 85%. If you stand up, there's 100%. If you stay inside the car because you don't have another other choice, let's say you're with an elderly or somebody with a disability, and he cannot get out or she cannot get out of the car, she should bend below the window line and protect her head with her hands. What should the other person do? Unfortunately, the answer is get out of the car, exit the car, stay as far away from you as from the car as possible, lie on the ground and protect your head with your hands.
Thank you. Thank you again. Does, okay, two other last questions. Does the app function without proper cell signal?
Does the app
function
Yeah.
without proper cell signal?
Perfect question. I think not, right?
No.
No, the app runs on internet, so right?
Yes, but you have a cell broadcast. So if you have if you have, I don't know how to explain in English. יש את הסל ברודקאסט שפורץ, שבמקרה של אם עכשיו יהיה מטח,
באפליקציה?
זה לא האפליקציה, זה פורץ לטלפון על הרשת.
Okay. So what Radah says, of course, as any other app, if there's no internet connection, then there's no app. But if there is a barrage of rockets right now, there's what is a CB, right? It's like a cellular broadcast that hits or penetrates the phones and provides you with an alert.
Excellent.
And this is why I always say, listen, if you're outside, you have the siren systems. This is your public siren or mean of alert. If you're inside the house, do not rely only on the app. You have the home computer, you have the television. You know, if television is open, you have alerts on the television. Always think about not just one. Don't rely just on the app. You know, we're relying on the app is like saying that I'm relying, let's say if the internet reception is not good, or I don't know, my cell phone provider has a malfunction or disruptions, always rely on an additional mean of alert. Okay.
Perfect. And something sorry, go ahead.
There was a question. I just want to say that you send me questions ahead of time, and there was a couple of questions talking about firearms. I know that it bothers everybody. Home Francoman doesn't deal with firearms. Okay, I just want to say that I know there's a lot of people who asked us that question because I saw it in a couple of questions. So I'm just going to say, because I saw it repeating, if you do want a firearm, you don't feel safe or anything like that, you should contact the national, what you call it, Misrad L'Bitachon Pnim. It's the internal or Homeland Security. This is the office that Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir runs. So he provides the information. You can go in and Google, Google them. There's a few criteria that you have to be or have to have in order to receive an authorization to carry firearms in Israel. If you do and you can, excellent. If not, please trust us. Okay, we're here for you. We really, really are here for you. The IDF is strong, and we're stronger because of you guys, because of the citizens, because we know that you have our backs, and we have your backs.
Oh, I would love to end with that, but there was one more question.
Okay.
Something that really didn't come up until October 7th, which was many mamad doors don't have an inside lock. You just turn the handle, and that's unfortunately something we became experienced with, and people sometimes hired people to put a lock inside. Will this become a new regulation? Should people spend money? No.
Okay, so the protected room, the mamad door, does not need to have a lock. It shouldn't have a lock. Okay. The reason is we need to be able to open it from outside, not what we had on October 7th, but God forbid something happened to you inside, we need the security forces to have the ability to open the door. Okay. But I can tell you that unofficial, there are a lot of solutions circling the web. You saw that one of the solutions that I strongly disrecommend is disassembling the protected room's handle from the door from the outside, to not allow anybody the options to open it from outside. But again, I totally agree that it might prevent others from going in, let's say unwanted people to go inside, but it will also prevent the wanted people to go inside. And this is why we recommend that if there's two other options that we can recommend to you. One of them is there are people that made, the wooden boards that actually puts them. It's something that is done. I know that I have a friend that volunteered in Hasharon area and actually went from house to house, and he manufactured them on his own. It was its own initiative, and he did it and put them actually in the mamads. The other option is take a heavy object, put it on the door to prevent the door from opening. But there's no other solution that is good. Otherwise, you harm the intactness of the door, okay? And you harm the protection of the protected room. Do not try to play with the handle, please, please, please. It's wrong, okay? Please don't do that. Use other options, either the wooden board or a heavy object that you can put on the door to prevent the handle from moving.
Under the handle.
And
Something heavy.
Yeah.
Under the handle.
and something heavy under the handle. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
I personally, on behalf of the almost 80 people listening, cannot thank you enough, both
My
of you.
pleasure. Our pleasure.
And we are all praying that that this just I don't even have any words anymore, but that we should see shalom. Shalom al kol
Thank you very
Yisrael.
much, everybody, for listening. Wish you all peace, and please be attentive to the guidelines. Just to repeat, last thing, and I'll end with that. As I said before, and I'm going to say it again, we have an update for iPhone users of the app. Please be minded to the guidelines. They will be distributed later on tonight, saying that now it's time to upload the app, that it's ready to be uploaded. Be minded that up until the moment where you upload the app, you will not receive alerts through the app. Okay, it's very important to remember. Again, iPhone users only. Android users keep on getting the app works, and you get alerts and everything. Okay.
Thank you so very much. Have a
Have a
safe
good week,
and a
everybody.
quiet night. And we will be
Thank you.
continuing, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
very
Thank you
much.
for having us.
Kotu. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay. To everyone who joined us, I need a cleansing breath. I don't know about you, but there was a lot of information. It was heavy information. And now we can turn our attention to two things: questions that repeated themselves not only here, but also prior to tonight's event, where you were asked to list your questions. And one of them was about obtaining a firearm, was about obtaining a gun. I'd like to ask Tippy to please talk about that for everybody.
Okay, so if you're not yet familiar with the gov.il website, it's a great website which explains all sorts of things, including licensing for a firearm. And what's nice about the gov.il website is they have a lot of information in English as well. Unfortunately, and there's a whole page, apply for personal firearm license, in English. Unfortunately, the Hebrew page was updated very, very, very recently because there's new regulations that came into place, and the English webpage does not yet reflect that. Okay, so I'm going to try really quickly, and in the you can find the Hebrew and use Google Translate as need be, but it is to apply for a personal firearm license. There are a number of steps. The first step is to see if you're eligible. Okay, there is online, and somebody put it in the chat. There is an eligibility calculator. It's in Hebrew, and it will ask you questions to see if you are eligible. Eligibility is based on many things. One of them used to be, and it was just changed now. And I was surprised when I looked, because when I looked last week, it still hadn't been updated, and it is now updated. So I guess the change is in effect. It used to be that you had to live in Israel for a minimum of 3 years consecutively as an Oleh. That is no longer the case. You do need to have, if you made Aliyah through Chok HaShvut, then you can, and you're over the age of 27, and the police give you approval, you can indeed apply for a firearm license. I'll say that again, a change. Okay, if anybody had written me a week ago, I would have said, if you're not here for 3 years, you can't, but that is no longer the case. If you are over the age of 27, and if you receive police approval, you can apply, and you made Aliyah, you can apply for firearm a license regardless of how long you've been here. Now, there are many other points, things that the criterion if you're eligible or not. And I'm not going to go through the whole list, but certain professions make you eligible. Certain where you live or where you work. There's a list of cities. They do not publish the list of cities for many reasons. You apply, and it's decided if you live or work in a city that you are deemed in need of a firearm. There are, if you follow the news, you'll know that there are many, 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 many requests, not just Olim who are asking, all Israelis trying to wanting to get a license for a firearm. And we understand that the whole process, I mean, it's not necessarily getting to be quicker or easier, but that they are approving more and more. I'm assuming that means that the areas where considered dangerous, where you would get approval, would be those areas have expanded greatly. Okay, so the process is first filling out an online form, attaching the needed documents, which would be a medical declaration. There's something you have to fill out. There's something from the police you have to get. You fill out that form once you are get possible approval. What's the word? Al t'nai approval, a conditional approval. You would then be invited in for an interview. Perhaps yes, or you won't be invited for interview and you'll be approved without that interview, all depending on their criterion. You would pay a certain fee. You would also get the conditional approval. You need to then go to do a certain number of hours on a shooting range and you need to do that yearly, by the way. Once you do get approval for firearm, you need to renew that yearly, both the license and the minimum number of hours on a approved official firing range. As I said, it's a long process, and it's not a long process, a lot of different steps and a lot of different this, that, and the other, perhaps this, perhaps that. One of the things you also need to do is either show that you served in the Army or in Shirut Leumi. And if you did not, which most Olim have not, there is a website, the Army has a website that you download a document that says that you were you received a P'tor, you received a
Exemption.
thank you.
Exemption.
Thank you. They were exempted from the Army. Okay. So those are the many various steps. We have on our website an article that you can look at. It's called Firearm. What's it called exactly? But it's not a fully up to date because it's called licensing a firearm in Israel, because again, there are recent changes since October 7th, and as of last week, they were not yet in, and now I guess they were officially approved. So we need to, we will be updating that again on our website, but you could look at it at least for the different steps 1, 2, 3, 4, if not for the criterion, which did change a little bit.
Tippy, I just want to address 2 questions and then move on because we do have a broad audience here and we want to give room for everybody to ask their questions. How does one get that police approval? They just go into the police station of their local town?
No. I'll look at that while you go on to other questions. I'll look at it on, I don't know offhand. I'm happy to try and look at it online. Somebody wrote in, that's true. I've also heard that they're doing the interviews on the phone. The approval, I need to check that out, Miriam. I'm not sure.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
great. The other question is there a level of Hebrew that somebody has to have?
Again, that used to be stated clearly that you needed to have a level of Hebrew. I do not see that stated clearly anymore in the criterion. So I don't know. I'm assuming it's not there for a reason.
Okay.
The interview
all right.
itself certainly would be in Hebrew. So but I don't know how much Hebrew they're looking for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. There were other questions about civil guard units within a community, and this is something that's being set up in a variety of communities where I live. There was a very large movement to create something in the different areas. Call your municipality, call 106, call your municipal coordinator. If you don't know what a municipal coordinator is, the municipal coordinator in your town is someone who liaises between you and Oleh Hadash and the municipality if you're not comfortable to call that 106 or 107 number. There is a municipal liaison in almost every city where there's a somewhat, it doesn't even have to be large, somewhat concentration of Olim. Might be English speakers, might be French. You can find a list of municipal coordinators, municipal liaisons on our website. If you just put in the search municipal coordinators, you'll find their cell phone numbers as well as their email addresses. And it's an amazing thing in terms of paying it forward and giving back, as well as keeping your town safe. Okay, I believe that covers some of what came in already in terms of either a community watch or gun licensing. I'd like to move on. People had asked questions about getting a passport, and I would just like to address that for a moment. As of July 17th of this past year, new Olim within their very first year of Aliyah are no longer eligible to apply for a passport. What they are eligible to apply for is something called a Tudat Ma'avar. This is a travel document. It looks like a passport. It's a different color, but it has your picture in it. It's one per person. It costs money. It's a biometric document and will last you for 5 years. It's valid for 5 years' time. People worry that it might not be as good as a passport for whatever that means, and it's very fine. It acts as a passport to be able to leave Israel and to enter Israel upon your return from wherever it is that you are going. If you are a US or Canadian citizen, you will never be able to use either that document or an Israeli passport to enter or exit the United States or Canada. You must have either a US or Canadian passport to do so. The price now for passports, if you're in your second year and beyond, or your Tudat Mavar, are less expensive from November 1st until February 28th. So if you have reached your 90-day mark from your date of Aliyah, because that is when you can apply for your travel document, only at the 90-day mark from your date of Aliyah, take advantage of the less expensive pricing, which must be paid for online with an Israeli credit card. Those are questions that came in. These were the three big ones in terms of how to get a gun, about any kind of civil service, and about a passport. Any other questions that people have, please feel free to put them in the box here and into the chat. I'm going to bring up a couple of topics just to touch upon just for a little bit in case people want to write their questions in. We have a lot of information on our website. Our website is over 30% post-Aliyah based. That means while you may have thought to turn to the website prior to your Aliyah and then forgot about it once you got here, know that there's a tremendous amount of information, be it about taxes, healthcare, how to get, whether the how to get is your driver's license, how to get your Arnona discount. Are your rights and benefits time sensitive? Yes, they are. What happens if you leave the country? What is residency? What is Bituach Leumi, the National Insurance Institute? These are all very important concepts that you may or may not be aware of. I'm certainly not going to go into each and every one of them now, but they are all discussed on our website, or at any time somebody tells you something, you heard something, you thought that you were supposed to get something and you didn't get it, please call us at *3680 or email us at answers@nbn.org.il. Nobody seems to have any questions coming in. I would like to remind everyone that you can find several programs that we have put into place now with the war. Sometimes hard to say the word war.
Miriam, somebody just wrote that there's an alarm right now, which is why maybe people, yeah, okay.
Okay. I was on the phone today with an Ole in Ashdod, and as we were speaking, there was an alarm. I just want to reiterate that we have several programs going on now through Nefesh B'Nefesh, and one of them is emotional support. We all need support during this time. Very few of us, if any of us, have actually lived through war. I've lived through many, what's called an operation here in Israel. I live in Israel long enough to have experienced rockets, to experience a lot of different emotions during an operation, but nothing like this. And so if you or you know someone else who is not able to find that chosen, to find the, and I can't think of the word in English, to find, who's going to help me?
Resilience.
Resilience.
I know you love that word.
If you can find something inside you to help you through, if you just need to talk it out, why you're feeling extra anxious, why you're feeling extra stressed, Perhaps it's a trigger of something in your past. You'll find it's not even an application, it's just a form to fill out. You'll find it on our website on the home page. Just put in nbn.org.il and you'll see it at the bottom. I see that, look, now it's my son in Ranana calling from his safe room because that's what my granddaughter does because she's scared. Yes, Tippy.
Yeah, I would like to, if it's okay with you, I'd like to just share a screen 1 minute and show, I don't know if you were going to do this, show quickly the emergency resources page that we have online.
Sure, go ahead.
I'm just going to show quickly. Okay, so so Miriam did say that if you go into our homepage, this is what you're going to see, all of these various icons. So you can get to our emergency resources page by clicking here. There's other ways to get into it. And I just want you all to be aware, we have put together, this is like a portal of all sorts of, these are the different sections, which include useful phone numbers, which include information from Pikuda Orif, the Home Front Command, which we just heard, government offices. If you click on the various links, if you click on the plus here, and you click on the various links, you can get to their sites for updates, okay? I'm not going to go through each of these topics. You could read it yourself. There are volunteer options, certainly not all the options available. There's many, many, many volunteer opportunities, I should say. Bituach Lumi, a whole section for those who, God forbid, become a direct victim of what's happening now. News sources in English, which is just a generally good thing, so on and so forth. We'll add, for example, you will get a follow-up email with the link to the recording of this evening's webinar, but we will also, once it's ready, which might take a day to 3 days, we'll add it here, and here's some other really good webinars you could look at, and so on. So I just wanted to, again, to put your attention to that so you'll know that that exists, and you can get to that in just by Googling it, or go to if you see our homepage, nbn.org.il. We have a list of our initiatives, and this specific one that I just showed you is the National Emergencies Resources page.
Thank you.
I'll just say one more thing about the firearms if I can. The question directly about the Hebrew level is, the wording has certainly been changed from you need to have it used to say you need to know Hebrew reading and writing. Now the exact wording is you need to have enough Hebrew to be able to understand the regulations, to be able to fill out the forms, and to be able to answer the interview questions. And as far my understanding, as far as getting the police okay, it's not something you do. They will do that check, that background check, once you have applied. That is not something you have to do actively.
Somebody asked about the passport. As many of you know, there was a regulation set into place several months ago for the ability to travel on a foreign passport until December 31st. We don't know yet if that regulation is going to be extended. 5 weeks ago, we would have said there is no intention whatsoever for that to be extended. Some of us were just at different Misladei Pnim, different Ministry of the Interiors for people making Aliyah from within Israel, and asked that question, and there still is no answer. Sometimes I feel that we're all figuring it out at the same time. As soon, of course, if there is an extension of that regulation, you will be one of the first to know. That's a good plug for our Telegram channel. If you don't know what Telegram is, it's a social media platform where we put a lot of information, which Misradei Pnim are open. Now more and more are open, but certainly at the beginning of the war, it wasn't that way. It's the way that we can stay in touch with you for very specific types of announcements. Somebody mentioned, Larry, I hope you're okay from that siren. Somebody mentioned that their first passport was good for 1 year and expires in July. That is correct. You can renew it within 6 months, but chaval, you could really renew it if you want to look for an appointment, let's say from April, giving it enough time to be printed. Everything is about to be delayed. If we didn't think it was delayed already, it'll take all of us, the entire country, time to get back on our feet in every way. And with that, I wish us all a quiet night, a safe night. Be safe. Give somebody a hug. It feels good. And stay in touch with us. Don't hesitate at any time. Have a great evening. Kol Tuv, and thanks again for joining.